Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Two enterprising young lads from New York decided that they were going to go to Jeffrey Epstein's island and take a look for themselves. These two dudes not only planned it all out, but they put their plans into action. And they succeeded. They made it to the island. They had a look around, and in our article, we're going to discuss and talk about what they saw while they were on the island of Little St. James. Our article today is from The Sun, and the headline, Mysterious Island. Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island, still patrolled by armed guards, claims urban explorer who visited Little St. James. This article was authored by Henry Holloway. Now, my question is, before we even jump into the article, if these two dudes from New York, who are not members of the media or anything like that, and I'm sure they don't have anywhere near the resources that the media does, if they were able to get onto this island, you mean to tell me that the legacy media couldn't finagle a way to have some sort of expose about the island, about the buildings on the island, what the infrastructure was on the island? Of course they could. But again, folks, remember, the legacy media does not care. Unless all they care about is when it bleeds that it leads. They don't want to get into the finer points of what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. They don't want to talk about the fact that all of these rich, disgusting members of so-called polite society were hanging out on this island with trafficked girls, even if they weren't abusing them. You were in the presence of trafficked girls. And you did nothing. So the legacy media decides, no big deal. We don't really need to know what goes on in that island, or what the infrastructure was, or if there were tunnels, or what the cement mixer was for, or any of that. They just said, no big deal. Stop being a conspiracy theorist. Well, these two dudes decided, you know what? F the nonsense. We're going to go up there and we're going to check shit out for ourselves. The same thing I did at Zorro Ranch. Because if you want the truth in this case, folks, you are not going to get it from the legacy media. Just like everything else that is going on, unless they can find a political angle where they can promote whatever brand of politics the media wants to promote, being whatever side of the aisle the outlet is, well, then, of course, they want to be involved. If it's something to do with politics or wielding the issue like a cudgel against their political opponents, hell yeah, they're 100% involved. But when it comes to actually informing the public, giving the public both sides of every story, giving the public the information that they need to know, they lack sorely there. Andy Bracco told The Sun Online about his eerie trip to Little St. James, Epstein's private retreat that has become known as Pedophile Island. So, this dude's name is Andy Bracco, and I'll tell you what, Paisan, good work, my friend. This is good work here, this is solid stuff, and we need more people who have the courage to dig in, more people who are willing to use their own resources, their own time, whatever means necessary to get to the truth in this case. That's how important it is. Bracco, from Long Island, U.S., who goes by the online moniker Place Hacker, traveled to the island this month with his pal John Megna, visiting the site twice. Looks like we have two enterprising young Italian lads here. Paisans. My guys, cugines. This is good stuff, folks. Good stuff, guys. Anybody who has the courage to face Jeffrey Epstein and his numbnut friends head on is most certainly somebody worthy to talk about. He told The Sun Online how they dodged security as they ventured through the southern portion of the $64 million, 70-acre Caribbean paradise in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And that's funny to me, huh? There's still an armed security force down there? What the hell are they protecting? I mean, obviously, a few security guards is probably a good idea, right? I get it. Try and keep people off. You don't want vandalism, shit like that. But again, it's an island. How many people have the means to get out to that island? So you need a whole security force? It doesn't sit well with me. It just seems like more money being siphoned away from the survivors' eventual payout. The duo came across infamous landmarks, such as the temple and the sundial, which were all once used by Epstein and his powerful pals. And again, this temple is creepy as hell. There is all sorts of symbolism and occult type nonsense with this temple, folks. Again, I am not qualified to really dig into the occult angle here, but I am reading much and more about the occult in my spare time, and I am trying to catch up and learn a little bit more about the symbolism angle of all of this, because it is very obvious that these people were into some odd shit, folks. Some odd shit. Locals warned him about teams of what are believed to be private security on the island who are armed while patrolling the roads on quad bikes and in buggies. Who's paying for all of this? Despite the pedophile killing himself behind bars, allegedly, Epstein's island also appears to be well maintained aside from some storm damage. Well, I could see that too. Look, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that all of these properties are sold off and the liquidation money goes in to the survivors' fund. So I can understand some basic maintenance of the property, making sure that the property is, sellable and that it doesn't, go into disrepair. That's totally acceptable. But the armed security shit, it doesn't sit well with me. It seems like just another way for people to siphon money off of this estate. And I wouldn't be surprised if the armed security is owned by a company that's run by Indiker Khan at this point. Do I have evidence of that? No, I do not. That's speculation on my part. But we know how deep the ties are with Indiker Khan. And what, you think they're above a double dip here? Something that should be looked into. Parts of the island still had electricity. The swimming pool was clean, the palm trees were well tended, and the tennis court had been recently demolished. He added paranoia set in amid tensions over the trip, saying he had been contacted by some shadowy people and had mysterious calls to his mobile phone. And this is the dude who went on the trip, Bracco. His first name, Andy Bracco. So he was getting weird phone calls, all sorts of shit over his trip to the island. And I'll tell you what, just because Epstein is gone, that doesn't mean the remnants of this enterprise won't do whatever they can to keep shit under wraps still. They most certainly will. The Explorer told The Sun Online, I sat down on one of the benches by the mausoleum, that temple-type area. Just sitting there knowing who has sat there before and the figures who had been there, it was surreal and it was unreal. Yeah, look, I can only imagine, because I kind of felt the same just at the gates of Zorro Ranch. Just staring at the property from the gates where I was at, I thought about all of the horrible things that had occurred on that property, and it made me so mad and so aggravated to know that nobody ever stepped in to do anything. The authorities in New Mexico never stepped in, the state authorities, nobody. They let these people continue with their decades-long run of abuse. FBI agents last year raided Little St. James as they built a case against the billionaire sex trafficker. And the island is believed to still be owned by the Epstein's estate. Of course it is. They haven't sold it off yet. Once that island gets sold off, whoever buys it, well, that's great. They could do what they want with the island then. But the money is going to go into the fund. And the survivors are going to piece that money off. It became known as Pedophile Island and the Island of Sin, but the creepy pedophile affectionately dubbed it Little St. Jeff. I don't even know what to say. I mean, so many people knew that he was a sick bastard. So many people knew that he had these weird proclivities. Bracco said, there is active security there. I visited the site twice over the week, and one of the times was in daytime, which was a little bit riskier. The route we took, we avoided a lot of cameras on the island, along with the workers and guards. We got pretty lucky. But we planned it a few months ahead, spoke to locals, and we knew what we were dealing with. I wouldn't suggest anyone go there unless you really know what you are doing. So this was something that Brocco and his boy put into motion months ago. They worked out the logistics, did their legwork, and then finally put their plan into motion and hit the island. I think I'm going to reach out to this young lad and see if he wants to come on the podcast for a chat. He explained the main reason they wanted to explore the island was due to persistent rumors of tunnels hidden beneath its surface. While the duo couldn't nail down the subterranean stories, he said locals told them about amazing levels of construction with huge amounts of cement being shipped to the island. I mean, put two and two together, right? Obviously, there were some tunnels here. We know from survivors that talk about stuff like this. So there was obviously some tunnels under this temple that probably led to the house. But the question is, not if there were tunnels, in my opinion, what were they used for? That is what must be discussed. Local rumors state this may have been to fill in the tunnels, he said. Brocco believes he and John are just the second people to be on the island since Epstein's arrest and death, aside from the contractors, guards, and FBI agents. This is a good work by these guys. And also, make sure you go and check out the article because there's a ton of pictures of them on the island, etc., etc. One of the most infamous structures on the island is the bizarre blue and white temple, which used to have a gold dome on top before it blew away. The explorer described how the structure felt cheap and had bizarre features, such as painted on fake doors with the initials J.E. inscribed next to them. And that was typical of Jeffrey Epstein, right? He always had his initials everywhere, like it was a big deal. His initials should have been J.O. for jerk off. He said it's very strange to know how much money this guy had to see such a low quality of a structure there. It makes you think if this is a distraction from something else. And that's a good point. What was that temple there for? I mean, it wasn't there just for looks. It wasn't there just to show people, oh, look, I can build this. It had a purpose. What was that temple built for? And really, what was it built on top of? The only way to get into the structure is through a glass sliding door through which you can see the whole interior. Brocco suspects the island may be preparing for new ownership with the changes such as the tennis court, but the site is still believed to be owned by Epstein's estate. As far as I know, it most certainly is still owned by Epstein's estate, and it would not be shocking to me to know that they're preparing it for sale. You know, we have a lot of the survivors have put in their claims with the fund, and as that money has to start being paid out, they're going to have to liquidate all of these resources to keep up with that. So it's not shocking to know that the tennis courts have been destroyed and there's some remodeling going on or some cleaning up, because at the end of the day, the idea is to make sure you get maximum amount for this property so that that money can be pieced off to the survivors. He said they constantly feared the sight of headlights heading towards them down the island's access roads as they snuck around. There was one super serious part, when we didn't account for what I believed was an infrared camera by the communications tower, he said. It was pointing directly at us, and if there was a sensor facing us, and depending on what software they had, it could have set off an alarm. So we had to rush off pretty quickly. And they, for sure, have these kind of sensors and cameras at Jeffrey Epstein's properties. Zero doubt. No doubt in my mind that they had this sort of technology there. So I can only imagine what other technology was on this property and others while Epstein was alive. Originally, he intended to keep his identity a secret, but after posting the first previews on his Instagram account, @Zockbex, someone leaked his name online. Such BS, dude. People are so ridiculous. It's like we have a whole generation of people who are all sorts of courageous behind the computer screen, but would never act that way in real life. Why are you going to out this dude if he's trying to keep his name private? He's doing a service to people and doing a service to the investigation as a whole, and people are still trying to dox him. Deciding to get ahead of it, he said, they were trying to use my name against me. In an attempt to disarm them, I decided to release most things with my name attached. I have had some interesting and shadowy people contact me. a few calls to my personal cell phone, so paranoia set in. Man, look, these people we're dealing with are straight up bullies, and the thing that they fear the most is losing control of the narrative. I've told you guys that since the beginning, and you're seeing it in real time. Little St. James is the center of many of the allegations against Epstein and his alleged madam, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scumbag, Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as conspiracy theories. The island is believed to be where much of his sexual abuse was committed and where he allegedly entertained powerful friends such as Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew. Well, I wouldn't say most of it, but its fair share of abuse occurred there. At every one of his properties, girls were being abused in record numbers, folks, all right? Not just this island. I know it's the most salacious, and I know it's what everybody likes to talk about, but all of these properties deserve the same kind of scrutiny. Survivors have claimed to have witnessed sex taking place openly on the island, such as Maxwell having girl-on-girl orgies by the pool. Epstein survivor Virginia Roberts claims she had sex with Prince Andrew once on the island, as well as Maxwell's house in London and Epstein's mansion in New York. Andrew strongly denies any allegations against him and said he had no knowledge of any wrongdoing while friends with Maxwell and Epstein. Clinton has also denied he ever spent time on the island, blasting claims earlier this year as lies, as they resurfaced in Netflix docuseries Filthy Rich. Such an absolute lie. Bill Clinton is a disgrace, and it's even more disgraceful that the DNC from their top of their ivory towers would even think to have Bill Clinton as part of their convention. Talk about an absolute joke. His office has said the former president knew nothing about the terrible crimes committed by Epstein, and there is no evidence to suggest he is linked to the underage sex investigation. No, just pictures of him getting a massage by one of Epstein's trafficked girls. Even if he didn't abuse her, which Shantae says he did not, by the way. The fact that an ex-president is pictured with a traffic victim should be headline news everywhere, but instead, swept under the rug again. Who cares? No big deal. Let's have Bill Clinton speak at the DNC. What an absolute joke. And the people who are defending it, you need to check your confirmation bias, all right? So many people love to throw that around. You're being biased. No. All right? You're being biased if you're defending Bill Clinton. Okay? Point blank, period. His actions are indefensible. He is a disgusting, smarmy son of a bitch, and anyone who is protecting him is obviously an ideologue. Pictures emerged yesterday of him getting a massage from one of Epstein's accusers on the pedophile's. It wasn't on the plane. It says on the pedo's plane, but it wasn't. Okay? Again, we have to be honest in our reporting, or else we're just straight garbage and trash like everything else. It was at an airport where he was getting the massage, not on the plane. Maxwell has denied any involvement in Epstein's sex ring, and last month pleaded not guilty to 4 charges related to child sex trafficking and 2 counts of perjury. Her lawyers have accused the survivors of trying to turn her into a scapegoat since the death of Epstein. Epstein killed himself in his cell, allegedly, at a New York prison in August last year while awaiting trial on charges, depriving many survivors of justice. Maxwell has been accused of taking part in the grooming and abuse of dozens of underage girls by Epstein. She is alleged to have acted as his alleged madam, pimp or fixer, co-conspirator, co-boss, etc., who would recruit survivors for him, such as approaching Virginia while she was working at good old Donnie Trump's resort, Mar-a-Lago. Survivors allege they were duped with claims she was recruiting models of masseurs, only to then be abused by Epstein and Maxwell. Yeah, I'm sure that all of these girls that have said this are liars. I'm sure that they all made these stories up. All these hundreds of thousands of girls that have never met each other just made up the same exact allegations, right? That's what people like Dershowitz and these other morons would have us believe. Well, we're not believing it. You're all liars, and you're being called out on it. The current charges against her relate to allegations by 3 alleged victims in particular. Meanwhile, court documents have revealed Epstein alleged to have dressed up a survivor, 14, in little girl's underwear before he raped her. I mean, does it get any more heinous than that? We've covered that in a previous episode, how Jeffrey Epstein would dress up this specific survivor in little girl's underwear before he abused her. And it made me want to vomit then. And just reading that little blurb makes me want to vomit now. The whole entire disgusting thing needs to be blown up. And every single person who was involved, who was hanging out, who was around, must start answering questions. If not, then these people, they're never going to face justice. So if the legacy media won't do their job, it is up to us to keep the pressure on. And when you have people like these two cugines who decide that they're going to take matters into their own hands and go check things out for themselves, well, it shows you where we are at as a society. When citizens take it upon themselves to do the job that this legacy media is getting paid an exorbitant amount of money to do, you know that the whole entire media complex is one gigantic dumpster fire. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this article can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, we'll be back later on. Enjoy your day.